All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the May Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Thank everyone for attending. We have a full agenda for our regular meeting today, as well as our meeting will be followed by the FY 2022 Annual Plan Public Meeting, which will be led by Kim Thomas, our Housing Programs Director. Before we move into the agenda, I want to point out the format for today's meeting to accommodate the public access. If you wish to make a comment, dial *3 to raise your hand and will be called on by the last 4 digits of your phone number. If called upon, please state your name and address. Also, I'd like to thank the commissioners who participated in the property tours after our board meeting, and then on April 30th with Council Member Royster and NRHA staff. It's very good for us to take opportunities like this to get out and walk the properties, interact with the residents and the staff. And Ron recommends that commissioners periodically work with him to visit any individual property or arrange for a tour of multiple properties. And of course, you can visit the sites as you wish. Also, I had the honor of representing NRHA at the home reveal for Mrs. Angel Locust, a former Tidewater Garden resident. Ms. Locust's home is at 2218 Harrow Avenue and was renovated using a Virginia Department of Housing ARS funding and home funds, and were used for the mortgage and down payment assistance. The renovations were completed by a minority building construction firm, Dominion Builders and Contractors, LLC, owned by Derek Gay. When I went to the tour, the sort of script says, words may not do justice. After my tour, I had one word: damn. That place was something. You can replace that with wow for the record. But the renovation was just outstanding. And Ms. Locust chose the colors, chose the materials, chose everything. And it was really, really impressive. And Ms. Locust is the homeowner? Uh-huh. And it was very much like, if you've seen these things on TV where they have the reveal. Yeah. So she went in for the first time. And I think we have a video, just for a short video to show. It's like a minute, 30 second video. You're on the star. You the star of the show. No. I'm just taking my.
We thank you, Lord Jesus, for everybody who's gathered here to support Angel. And we also thank you for all that will come. It is in your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Gwen. I just want to thank God for giving me the strength to do what I had to do. And I want to thank NRHA for allowing me to get in the HomeNet program, LaShawn. I want to thank Ms. Gwen, Ms. Cross, and everybody that I came in contact with.
This is beautiful.
It's nice.
Did you pick out the countertop?
Uh-huh. Me and LaShawn.
Beautiful. You did it. Oh, nice. Nice refrigerator. Look, I'm like, it's my house. I'm like, I want to know this.
Look, you welcome to come over anytime. Yeah. Oh, I wish my daughter could have came. That is so nice. It is so nice. Thank you. Whew. It is nice.
Like I said, it was a very, very special moment, not just for her, but for everybody's staff, to see what can be accomplished through that programs, not just the money, but the actual, what it turns into be for that particular individual. She was so happy. It was just amazing. Speaking of amazing, Vice Chair Alfonso Albert is going into retirement from his position as CEO of the Garden of Hope CDC. He has invited all commissioners to his retirement brunch that will be held Saturday, May 22nd from 10 a.m. to noon at the Gethsemane Community Fellowship Church at 1317 East Brambleton Avenue.
Mr. Chair, before you get all the way down the road, my retirement is for the church, and I'll remain as the executive director of the Garden of Hope. I'm retiring from the roughly almost 30 years of executive administrator for Gethsemane Community Fellowship, which has been my primary employer.
Great.
Just point of clarification, they're excommunicating you?
Same thing.
They said same thing.
But now, welcome partially to the leisure class. So, but again, Ms. Kim Smith is coordinating the event, and if you're interested in attending, please let everybody know. Now I'll invite your comments, if any, on the minutes from the April 8th board meeting. If there are no comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
Ms. Carnes?
Mr. Albert?
Aye.
Ms. Arrington? Aye. Mr. Benassi?
Aye.
Ms. Purrier? Aye. Mr. Gresham?
Aye.
Mr. Musacchio?
Aye. Thank you very much. Now, Executive Director's comments.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I just wanted to mention a couple things. First, bring your attention to the updates that start on page 118. If you have any questions on any updates that were provided for you, I wanted to highlight a couple of them. The first one being on 120, page 120, which highlights our efforts with the with our Wi-Fi expansion. Let me get to that. It was a Wi-Fi expansion initiative, and I wanted to thank the Client Services Department and our IT department in their efforts to try to bridge the digital divide in our community. And it was last week they finally, actually through April 26th to April 30th, they were finished all the planned installations for the Wi-Fi access point. And so what that did is it was like I mentioned before, a collaborative with Client Services and Information Technology, and it was to upgrade the wireless infrastructure in NRHA communities, bringing free Wi-Fi access to nearly close to about 6,000 residents housed in 6 mid-rise communities and 5 family communities. And we know just throughout the pandemic, it sort of highlighted the fact that TTE didn't really have Wi-Fi access, how they were a lot more vulnerable in terms of being able to get access to resources and just information and things. And also with the schools, the children that didn't really have access, but their schools were doing virtual learning. So really like to thank the Client Services and IT department for their efforts in helping bridge the digital divide in our community. Also, I'd like to highlight our Families First initiative, and that's on page 122. And the Family First initiative is basically helps to promote effective community engagement and collective impact programming. And there's a number of initiatives that fall up under that. One of the first and more recent ones is our resident vaccination efforts. It started out in our community. Staff has done a really great job of actually working with the healthcare providers who have the supply of vaccinations, because they really didn't understand how to, connect with our community, some of the things that they need to talk about to make people feel comfortable about getting vaccinated, and also the actual locations we're able to get to our residents to be able to administer the vaccination. So our staff has worked with Centera Healthcare, they work with the city, Norfolk Department of Neighborhood Services, and recently they formed a partnership with the University of Hampton Mobile Vaccination Clinic, and they will be doing their mobile vaccination clinic will be hosting family events in Calvert, Young Terrace, and Oakley Forest, Tuesday, May 25th through Thursday, May 27th. Each day, the mobile clinic will administer vaccinations and COVID tests on site. Other community engagement services and activities will be made available at the event. And the Hampton University Mobile Vaccination Clinic will also return June 15th to the 17th to administer the second doses. And then also, like I said, with them understanding the needs of residents, especially the ones who are immobile or who have mobility issues, the Virginia Department of Health and EVMS have expressed an interest in working with NRHA to identify residents who would benefit from door-to-door immunization opportunities. Collaboration is still ongoing, and we'll seek to see a rollout in late June and early July. Also, under the Family First, we have out-of-school youth program. We just received an extension on an award from the Hampton Roads Workforce Development Board. They awarded us $137,500 in funding from the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Grant. And what this grant does is it extends NRHA youth program contract for out-of-school youth for another program year. This adopts the Initiatives to Improve Employment Programming managed by Client Services Division, and hope to increase the earning outcomes for at least 25 out-of-school youth residents ages 18 to 24. So if you have the opportunity, there's some more initiatives that are under the Family First program, but I'd like to commend staff for their efforts in both of those initiatives. One other thing before I finish up, I'd like to also thank staff for the Right to Return event that we had. It was on Walk Street. It was an information session that they had, information fair that was on Walk Street and Tidewater. And there were a number of our partners, service provider partners, that were part of the Right to Return information event. We also had staff on hand to answer any questions, because previously there was a lot of disinformation about what exactly the right to return entails. So we're trying to get out to the public, especially amongst the residents, to make sure that they understand that they do have a right to return and what their options are. So that the information fair was very positive. I know I saw Commissioner Albert out there as well. There was a number of residents that were able to come out. It was pretty festive. The weather was really nice. It was a really festive event. Got a chance to speak to a number of service providers that we're working with, and I can say that everyone I spoke with, they're committed with working with the families. Even if they decide to come back or if they decide to leave, they plan on staying in touch with the families to provide the services that they're going to need.
I didn't want to interrupt your report, but I did want to say regarding the term policy fair that was in Tidewater, it really amazed me. I went to the table of the people who call themselves the moral majority or the new majority or whatever their name is. And I was talking to a young man at the table who started off by trying to sway me with some of their information. So I said, well, do you know me? He said, no, but I know you need to know this. I said, well, I'm a commissioner with the Housing Authority. And I said, you pass down a lot of everyone's information here, buddy. I said, this information you're giving out is not right. So what's wrong about it? So I proceeded to tell him what's wrong about it. And I could have done it in one word to say everything, but I had to really unpack it for him.
Yeah.
And the reason I did is because he started to characterize Tidewater Gardens the same as Broad Creek the same as other, and so my point is that, they are giving out a bunch of really just totally bad information to, people who wanna believe that anyway.
Yeah.
And they are totally, off base and wrong about the information. I really felt sorry for the guy. I told him, I said, man, it's sad that you would be representing this information.
Yeah.
And know so little about it.
Right.
You know, I mean, that really is a sad thing, and, so he told me, you know, I had a right to my opinion. I said, well, thanks, you know, because you run everything else, I guess you're running me too. And, it was just sad to see just how erroneous the information. I saved it, I don't know, I keep it all the time though, because it's a clear-cut example of, how people are misled.
Yeah, there is, I mean, the focus of we had a couple of presentations to groups yesterday and the week before. We have a number of other ones, and that seems to be the primary thing. They try to cast the C&I projects and the things that happened in the past, which, you know, we can't, you know, what they call, like I say, quote unquote, urban renewal, and then they associate this is going to be the same thing. It's going to be the same result. We're going to displace, you know, our residents so that economic development interests can take over. And so and we're, like I said, pretty much every presentation that we've done, the groups have had to address that, and we tried to explain this is not going to be that. There is a legitimate right to return for the residents. There will be housing opportunities for those who want to return, and that seems to be sort of a hard thing to try to get people to understand. It's easy to draw back to the past and think that this is going to be the same way, and people don't really have housing choice. You can point to the number of articles, like the Bloomberg article talked about the playbook for removing the poor, the articles that have come out, that professor from CNU that talks about the false choice. But, they do a really good job of talking about the past, but they themselves don't have any solutions. We're trying to address the issues that, they've documented very well about how, housing patterns in Norfolk, the way that they were because of discriminatory practice. But, we're hoping with our efforts that we'll be able to address that to some degree. But we have to, that's sort of a constant focus that's out there in the public that we really have to address. We try to do the best we can to dispel a lot of surrounding problems. Okay, and then the last thing, what I have here, I know we've talked about the TAG organizational assessment, and I do have a draft report to hand you out individually. It's a confidential report. What I wanted to do, after you had the opportunity to read it, sometime before our next board meeting is when they're actually coming down from Boston to do an in-person presentation that will be done in closed session over the organizational assessment. But before then, I wanted to meet with you all individually, give you the opportunity to read it, and just sort of get your sense of, how you feel about some of the things that you read in the report. After the presentation, what I'd like to suggest is that we have a long-term planning or strategic retreat, and I would ask if you look at your calendars for that last week in July. I think that's the 27th through the 30th would be Tuesday through Friday. If you can reserve that time. And like I said, it's not going to be, the primary focus is really going to be talking about some of the recommendations in the session, but also some of the opportunities and challenges that we have as an organization. We really need to have the input from the board in terms of what this organization is going to look like, short-term, mid-term, and also long-term. So that's what the plan is. So if you could reserve that time.
What were those dates here, the 27th through when?
Yeah, that will be that July the 27th to July the 3rd. You could just hold that time, and we could arrange to have a strategic planning session for the around that time. Okay.
Other comments?
So that's all.
When you get this, I'm gonna encourage you to read the report. It's very dense. So to have a meaningful.
I'll,
Okay. Other comments from commissioners? Okay. All right, then let's go ahead and move on to the finance and administrative operations. And that starts on page 12.
You ready for me?
Yes, please, come on up.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay?
Good morning.
I think we're just going to bring the PowerPoint up in the background so that. Can you speak up, Nora? Sure. Is it going to be up on the
Yes,
screen?
we'll do that.
Okay, they're pulling it up. Okay, there we go. This isn't going to be as interesting as the video this morning, so a little denser and drier material, but I am here this morning to talk about the FY22 proposed budget and the FY23 and 24 plan and what that looks like in terms of balancing. Even though this presentation is called Balancing Strategies, the main takeaway from this, especially as a preamble to the review of the TAG report, is going to be an understanding of specifically which projects and programs have planned shortfalls and what that means to NRHA in terms of our use of reserves and the reserve balances. The Budget and Finance Committee has had an opportunity to see this, so I will try to move through it as quickly as possible, but if at any point there's questions, please feel free to stop me and we will hopefully have an answer for you. Next slide, Reggie, please. So today's agenda is going to cover some assumptions that we made while developing the budget model, focus on key takeaways, give a illustration of specifically which projects and programs have shortfalls at any time within that 3-year window, give a quick look at selected reserve balances. It's not going to be all of the reserve accounts, just ones that are in question for this look. And talk about how we're going to balance the budget and then some next steps. Next slide, please. So this is the longer of the slides, but there's some more important material in here. So I'm going to go bullet by bullet, and if there's any questions, feel free to stop me. So as we have to do each year, we had to make a number of assumptions in developing the proposed 22 budget. Even more so because we're working with the 23 and the 24 fiscal year plan, and that is quite a ways away, and a lot can happen between now and then. So the first point is that there are no reductions to service delivery proposed in the fiscal year 22 budget or 23 or 24. There is a 2% cost of living adjustment that is included each year. We have funded all of the currently vacant, not all, most of the currently vacant positions. There are a few that departments gave the go-ahead to defund, and they're vacant. So just to be clear, all vacant. We have included city funding as is included in the city's proposed budget. The plan does not include any future RAD conversions or CIP projects, so if any new conversions or CIP projects come along, those will be treated as budget amendments. The budget model reflects the current Tidewater Gardens demolition schedule. It does not assume the receipt of developer fees, although we believe we will earn some developer fees in this window. They'll be treated as we receive them and appropriated each year. The budget model does apply land sales proceeds, which we'll talk about a little later on, because although it is not technically a reserve, it's treated sort of similarly. The budget assumes the continuation of all existing grants. It continues our practice of fully utilizing all the earnings from Oakmont and Merrimack before we dip into the reserve account. And as Mr. Jackson noted earlier, the budget model does not reflect any of the recommendations or suggestions in the TAG organizational assessment. So if there's changes that result from that, I believe there will be some cost-saving measures. Those aren't reflected in these numbers. So before I move on from this slide, which has a lot of words on it, are there any questions? Okay, next slide, please. And the key takeaways, the proposed fiscal year 22 budget has not accomplished the long-term stability. We are still using reserves, so we have had to balance the budget by taking some reserve accounts to the minimum required levels, and there's some other smaller reserve accounts that will be depleted over this 3-year period if we don't make some adjustments. So that the next couple bullets related, certain reserves as a result will not be available for unanticipated needs during fiscal year 22 and beyond. And without doing some operational changes, we might not be able to fund all the shortfalls in fiscal year 25 or 26 if we don't do something differently. And the budget, of course, will need to be amended, like we said a few minutes ago, to capture some of the changes in the TAG report, which would hopefully assist in correcting those bullets above it about taking reserves to minimum levels. Next slide. So this slide is a summary of the agency-wide shortfalls by year and tells you how we intend to close the shortfalls. It looks a little blurry, but at a high level, that first line is the authority-wide shortfall, and for fiscal year 22, it's $6.8 million. Of the $6.8 million, 2.7 will be funded using earnings from Oakmont and Merrimack, so current year earnings, and that leaves about $3.3 million that will be funded from either privately managed reserves, which is Oakmont, Merrimack, discretionary funds, and $2.2 million from program reserves. So the program reserves are really more project specific, so that might be, for example, federally aided housing has its own reserve, so that's what's in that number. And the working funds, which we allocate $800,000 each year, is a revolving pot of money, so it's not $800,000 each year for 3 years. It's the same $800 that kind of just rolls over. This number, the $6.8 million, is not terribly different than what we've seen at this point last year. So, are there any questions on this one before we move on? Okay, next slide, please. So on the screen is project by project and program by program, each and every area that will have a shortfall in any of the 3 fiscal years in question. I'm not going to go line by line. As you can see, there's quite a few of them. If there's anything specific that anyone wants to talk about, we can do that. At a high level, these are the same projects and programs for the most part that we see on this slide each year. There's nothing really surprising from past years. The only thing I really want to point out is if you see in 24, it looks like federally aided housing is coming into balance. The view is a little, for lack of a better word, I don't want to say deceitful because that has a negative connotation, but what's happening in 24 is we're still receiving phase-down subsidy for the units even though they're not there. So we'll be getting revenue and we've taken down the expenses. That revenue will eventually dwindle out and that number will go back up. So I don't want to create excitement and everyone thinks we're balanced because that won't be the case. So were there any questions on this slide about any of the projects or programs? The only other thing I want to point out before we leave this slide is although it's not up here and it's not a technical shortfall, the development division is planned to use land sales proceeds in all three of the fiscal years, 22, 23, and 24. That use of the land sales proceeds in each of those 3 years will fully utilize that source of money. And so at the end of fiscal 24, rolling into fiscal 25, there wouldn't be land sales proceeds left available to fund future shortfalls in the development division. And at that time, you would see it pop up on here with the use of reserves or some other source of funds. Next slide, please.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to really commend Ken for staying with this committee in a way that provides excellent leadership. I mean, he asked relevant questions. He kind of helped the committee stay focused on the things we see as valuable in addition to the work that they normally provide. And and I know our executive director shared, I believe he shared those thoughts as well. Ken has provided. I've been with the finance committee since you put it together, and so Ken can provide the kind of leadership I think that's of excellent, tremendous value. And just wanted to say that I know the staff also appreciates his comments and the way that he helps us provide folks, keep the thing in balance. And I think that's important.
And that's really important, especially when we compare the information. And all of the committees are really helpful with the commissioners because it really helps us concentrate on the areas that are really important. So we really appreciate y'all's feedback.
And I think they relish the opportunity to kind of go deeper. Am I right?
We do. We very much appreciate it.
And not just pull up a P&L and say, here's what we got, here's where we are. Thank you.
No, thank you all for participating. We do appreciate it. So the slide above, this is the projected use and balances for reserve accounts that are planned to offset the shortfalls in any of the 3 fiscal years. And again, I won't go too into detail here, but you'll note that by the end of the 3-year period, some of the reserves will be at or close to their minimum reserve levels. Federally aided housing will be closed and Merrimack Landing, and will also be fully expending some smaller reserve accounts, the admin equipment and data processing reserve fund, and the rehab emergency reserve account. Those are projected to be fully depleted at that time. So once these project-specific and smaller reserve accounts are depleted or taken to the minimum levels, it's going to shift the demand of the items that those reserves are funding onto other reserves, probably, more in the discretionary nature, Oakmont and Merrimack. So as we kind of dry up these smaller reserve accounts, the demand on those other accounts is going to increase commensurately.
Which is not sustainable.
No, not sustainable.
Okay.
No. Next slide. And to Mr. Benassi's comment about not being sustainable, this slide is giving you a just a look, a visual look at the privately managed reserve balances over the last couple of years. And the tan on the bottom is the minimum required level based on our current operations, and the brown up top is what's available. So you can see each year we are dipping into those Oakmont and Merrimack reserves. We are using them, and you can see the trend isn't going in the way that we would like to see. And of course, related to the last slide, as those smaller reserve accounts are spent up, the reliance on these two funding sources will increase. And next slide, please. So that's pretty much all there is to talk about this morning. These are the next steps, and there will be a proposed budget document distributed to the board and posted online later this month. And the public hearing will be advertised. We will have another Budget and Finance Committee meeting before the proposed budget presentation. And then there will be the Board of Commissioner work session that we do each year on the budget. And then finally, hopefully budget approval at the end of June 24th. And at the end of the presentation, are there any questions? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, we're getting closer to the lottery tickets. We don't need ski masks. We already have that.
Mr. Chairman, each year we talk about, I've forgotten how we worded it, but looking at reductions and, you know, setting goals, and we never hear the results of whether that is being achieved.
Okay.
I would be interested in whether, you know, we're setting things and they are being achieved and yet we still have this problem, or whether we set the goal and then it gets sort of
Caught up. Yeah.
caught up in, you know, for lack of a better word, excuses. But you know, I do thank the Finance Committee for pushing to have this information brought forward. If we'd had it 5 years ago, maybe we could have been working on this 5 years ago, and it wouldn't be quite as dramatic.
Okay, Ron, if you could sort of marry some of this stuff up as we move forward with these meetings.
Well, I think a number of the recommendations that are in the TAG report are going to help address some of the issues. Definitely the strategic retreat. I mean, we've got to really have some hard, honest discussions at that time about how, you know, how the board wants the organization to go forward to address some of these structural issues that, you know, to me, what you just saw, the reserves, is really sort of a symptom of organizational inefficiency that we need to address. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think the strategic planning session is going to be really important. We may not have too much of an impact on this current budget. I mean, we're the next step is to go through the hearing and then the approval in June. But maybe there's some things we can do once we come out of the strategic retreat, and definitely have an impact on the next year's budget, where we address some of the issues that have helped rectify this trajectory of use of reserves. I mean, you can't sustain a business just operating reserves. That's what the meaning of reserves is, that they're not to be used, daily. I mean, in terms of their operation, we should be able to have a budget where it's a balanced budget. That means it comes from our business operation.
And one of the things I think that is inherent in this report that I've read half of is kind of the way that we're accounting for things and we're measuring things, Dick. And what we've been doing is looking always in the rearview mirror at the budget, and we just scrambling around. Well, we got to reconcile the budget.
Yeah.
That's missing the point.
That's right.
The point needs to be operationally, are we hitting our goals? How are we doing? Just like E.T. Gresham used to run their business, or Colliers. I mean, you got to look at it kind of like that.
Yeah.
And we haven't, and structurally, we're not set up to do it that way.
And just the monthly, I've always been concerned about the board not getting monthly financials.
That's what I'm talking about.
I mean,
Yeah,
you really can't gauge how well the organization is doing if you have no idea what you're doing.
And we've got to be able to see each business unit. How are they doing?
Well,
Are they trending down?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my question, is how St. Paul's, which is a large proportion of our fiscal plan, is being changed. How is that impacting the organizational structure that we have now?
Well, the tag is going to get us there, but I mean, the accounting department did a great job of kind of matching what the revenues are going to look like over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a roadmap, and then Ron ordered the plan, which is very timely, that we should be able to reconcile all that.
Okay, again, remember, the tag report is still draft, quiet, so let's focus that more on when we get into this particular session.
Okay.
And again, I think the comments are, make sure you read it, because it is very important for our future. Okay.
But we don't want to be like Gresham, because we don't want to have a benign dictatorship over here.
Do we have anything else from the finance? I mean, there are a bunch of committees and all of the questions on the reports. If not, then I'll suggest that we go to page 29, and we'll have Mr. Jackson et al. Talk to us about the St. Paul's update.
I'll ask Steve Morrell to come in and give us an update.
Good morning.
Good
morning. Well, that's a tough discussion to follow. Oh, boy.
So Steve Morales, budget impact, I guess. So I'm going to be talking about St. Paul's today, and I'm going to do two things. I want to make sure that we're giving a good overview of the plan, the housing plan in particular, and then I want to give a quick update of where we're at. There should be a presentation coming up. Next slide. So I'm going to start with the basics. We know what we're doing in St. Paul's, and this is really for the broader, I guess, community too. Again, we are taking down Tidewater Gardens at 618 units, and we are replacing them with 309 vouchers and 309 hard replacement units. Key with that, and again, I want to go back in time just a little bit. Going back in 2005, when this planning started, surveys were done then. Surveys were done also in 2012, 2018, and continuously to be done. A big part of why we designed our plan this way is because we always had residents saying, we want a voucher, we're not looking for a hard unit. And so we designed our plan to reflect two things: the community need or for a hard unit, but also the residents' desire for vouchers. Next slide, please. So,
Steve, as People's First and their involvement with urban strategies, has that brought any difference to the hypothesis in terms of, or is that still validated?
still validated.
Okay, good.
There's a constant surveying of the residents on their desire to return, and we're at 55%.
Okay, that's very critical.
On site, we're going to be building 710 apartments. And again, the whole plan from the beginning was do a mixed income community, because you're transforming the area. You're changing it from an area of just concentrated public housing, concentrated poverty, into a mixed income community. So what we've got out there are 226 hard replacement units. So they will have project-based assistance on them. In addition, there's 232 affordable units. These are low-income housing tax credit units. They're going to have income restrictions, and they also accept housing choice vouchers. And then 252 market rate units. That's the 710 to be built on site. In addition, we also have planned 83 to be built off site. The way we're accomplishing that is NRHA annually, we put out an RFP for project-based voucher units. Those go out to the private sector, looking for private developers who use those units, a portion of those units, to be more competitive in the low-income housing tax credit competitive rounds each year. We actually already have one project that went through that process. Hopefully they'll be starting construction a little bit later this year. They've had some challenge with the community around them, but that's the Riverside Station project, where 23 of their units will be replacement units. So we've had success with that approach. At the end of the day here, we're showing this 541 number. So, you know, as we said from the beginning, we're taking down 618, and I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you guys to try to confuse you. But the bottom line is the absolute replacement that we're doing, where our residents, where the Tidewater Garden residents have preference, is at least 541. 309 replacements, 232 affordable. This board, as well as City Council, adopted a right to return policy where you guys set the first preference for those replacement and affordable units is for Tidewater Gardens residents. Next slide, please. Schedule. You know, we are on a pretty tight schedule. The grant, the $30 million Choice Neighborhoods grant, has to be expended by September 2025. Believe it or not, despite COVID, now gas shortages, lawsuit, everything else, we are still on target to meet our September 2025 date. I'm not going to say we're going to slip from there, but right now, all the teams are working, so incredibly hard to make sure that we get to those days. Relocation, we've been underway really since 2019 on soft relocation, and transitioning that in last October to where we were actually issuing 120-day notices and being more directive of how we relocate folks. That continues. USI is on the ground working with those families to make sure, again, that they are seeing the best opportunities for relocation, getting the assistance they need. Of course, we're paying for the relocation costs and working with those families throughout that process. Demolition. We demolished the first building earlier, completed the first demolition of the first building this year. That was back in January. One building, 6 units. The demolition contractor is actually, again, on site. They're about to start work on 16 buildings, 118 units. They're starting the asbestos abatement really next week. And then you'll start to see that demolition occurring probably about a month and a half from now. We're also in a sort of a phase 2 of relocation, which is setting up the next also demolition phase. Infrastructure work. You can go out there right now. The city is already working on the very first component. They're doing some work on Wood Street right now. But there's the full infrastructure program is really going to kick off in the fall when they start the work after we complete our demolition on the 16 buildings, where they're realigning Church Street and starting to work on the new Freemason Street that crosses from downtown, new light at St. Paul's and Freemason, and crossing into this area. The Blue Greenway project. Go ahead.
I have a question, and it may be behind everything. The station that they built, I never really understood what that was for. station that they're building?
So the new pump station?
Pump station, what is that really for?
So, and I'm probably not the best person to answer that, but you have to pump essentially the sewage through the area. Right now, everything in the Tidewater Gardens area, it's the pipes as well as the pumping facilities are under capacity. You know, they can't pump enough to accommodate what's gonna be built. And so they have to build in this new pump station.
Okay, I've never understood. Okay.
Oh, no problem. I mean, I think that's confusing to all of us, but
I understand.
You know, they were actually saying if this is necessary in order to open up for the rest of the development.
Can you add anything, Dick? Pardon? Can you add anything to that?
No, I think that's the type of answer. Your infrastructure is the foundation on which everything we're doing is going to be resting on, and the systems have to be up to snuff.
You know, one of the issues that we have here is we're a low area anyway, and Tidewater is even lower than a lot of the areas. So we're kind of always trying to go up there.
Absolutely.
The Blue Greenway is under design. That's going to be the new area dealing with stormwater. And then housing construction. I'm going to talk a little bit about this later, but all of that has to be completed by September 2025. Next slide. So again, I noted that we are in a phased relocation and demolition program. Again, we expect relocation if all goes well. We do make amends if they don't, but if all goes well, we hope to be completed really in the late fall of next year. Demolition in the late fall of 23. All of this is in line with the city's infrastructure program as well as the developer's housing program. So right now, again, we're staying on course and on schedule. We have a little play in the schedule, but not much. We pretty much used that up through COVID. Next slide, please. This graphic is just showing the housing, like the relocation and demolition and infrastructure. Everything's timed and phased, and so we're doing a progression, basically going from west to east. So starting on the other side of Fenchurch with the new construction, and also that's where the infrastructure will start, and we'll be moving eastward. Next slide, please. We're hoping sometime in 2024, this will be the view that will be seen. That these are the first four projects that you're seeing up there right now. That's block 19 and 20. That's a senior building in block 19, block 20, a family building, and then block 17 and 18. These are what they're designed to look like. 19 and 20 are set to go. They will be starting construction a little bit later this year. Block 17 is in the competitive LIHTC round this year. We've scored very well in the preliminary scoring that they just released this month, and so we're looking pretty good for winning that award. And then Block 18 is the 4% deal that's non-competitive. So once the developer wins on Block 17, they'll start their work for submitting for Block 18. So they twin those deals together. Next slide. Biggest work coming up right now is as we move from the 4 developments around the transit station off the Tidewater Gardens area, we're now working into the going from concept to more of the actual design of Tidewater itself. So the architectural teams, the engineering team, they're all working right now on taking the concept, ground truthing everything, and making sure that we can build what we need to build. And based on those numbers that I gave you earlier, the 710 units, and getting the right units in the right boxes and across the different variety types. A big thing of what we're doing is we know that the first projects have to be multi-story apartment buildings. But as we get into Tidewater, we have more area to work with and get back to more of the family units where we're going to be still looking at multi-story apartments in some cases, but more and more townhouses, essentially that are, I think, better fit for a lot of our families. So they're working on that. Also, the green space, the stormwater, Blue Greenway area, that's fully under design also. Critical part of this project is addressing and solving the flooding issue that we have at Tidewater Gardens. A lot of this land we knew was actually built over a former creek bed. There's a lot of infrastructure in the ground to keep the water at bay, but over time, we know what water wants to do. It wants to go where it wants to go. It's a low area, and so part of this project is resolving that area, and a big part of it is stopping the fight with nature and just go ahead and say, you win. You know, you want to be here, so we're gonna design it so that we live better with you.
Steve, what about the YMCA?
That's a big question. I don't have the answer for that one. All I can say is there's a lot of discussion with the Huntington Y at this time, and it is something that the city is trying to work out with them now. We show it on the map here where it looks like it's been topped out. However, and that is our preferred situation, because a lot of that piping goes directly under the building. However, they are doing the design both ways. It's our preferred design, but they're also designing around the Huntington Y. So hopefully we can come to an agreeable solution with them, but we're not there yet. Next slide. This is kind of just a recap of just what I've given to you guys. So we're right now getting ready to demolish the 16 buildings between Ben Church and Chapel Street. Relocation is underway for the next wave for the next area for demolition, which calls for our phase 2 relocation area, which is really the area in the middle of the Tidewater Gardens area. And Rose, I know you're dealing with it right now, but the city's doing that infrastructure work on Wood Street right now where they've got Wood and Ben Church closed off. Like I say, they're doing some early infrastructure work to get ready to build the pump station, as well as shore up Wood Street. It's going to be a lot more work in the future in that area. I apologize now for us all. Block 19 and 20. These are set to start construction later this year. They should be closing at the end, closing on their financing in late August, and construction should be starting sometime in September or October, hopefully at the latest.
Steve, in the first slide, you talked about the blend of market rate, vouchers, et cetera. Will each one of these project blocks have the proportionate, or is it going to be dependent upon the financing that they get and where the market rate is likely to be?
Each of the projects are relatively proportionate. I will say this, is that Block 19 is an elderly, and that probably is going to have the least number of market units in that project. But all the rest, the design has always been to get the a third component.
Okay.
And so all projects are really designed to be mixed. So it's not one LIHTC, all replacement units in one building, one all market. We're not doing that. It's a mix in each.
Good.
So for Tidewater, when we finally tear it down, to demolish it, y'all are gonna build back there?
Yes. Yes, we're gonna be building back there, and again, it's gonna be a range of units. And it's really, it's our intention in that area to get more of the townhouse style units back in there, more of the family style units. And it's the same thing as the other projects where we're looking to have a third, where a mixture of the replacement units, affordable units, and market units. And a big thing, and we were on a presentation last night, and we have a question, will there be differences between the units? And no, there won't be. So, if it's a replacement unit, it's not going to be of a lower standard than a market unit. It's going to be of the same standard. All the units will have the same features, built the same way, same amenities, et cetera. Again, we're waiting to hear about the Block 17 LIHTC competitive round. We'll find about that in June. We're feeling pretty good about it right now based on our scoring. And then later this fall, or actually later this summer, we'll be putting out for another demolition bid for the phase 2 area. That's going to be a probably a mixture of different bids as we break up the project for some economic goals that we're looking to get to economic inclusion goals. But we've got this is really, I think, the biggest year right now in this project where everything seems to be fixing to get started. This is the year where everything's going to be clear that everything has been started, where the true demolition, more of the relocation, we're past the halfway mark, and new construction on the housing started and construction on the infrastructure started. So this is where everybody says, yeah, this is absolutely real. That's my short update. Happy to take any questions.
Just keep at it. Keep at it. I think there's many balls up in the air, and so we really do appreciate what the staff is doing to keep this thing on track.
So we really do have a great team between the city, USI, Bridgeshore, NRHA, everybody else, all USI's partners, everybody we're working with, the architects, the engineers, everybody is really working hard to get this thing done.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think next is any questions on the development activities reports, which follow the presentation, acquisitions, any of that? Okay, if not, then we'll go to housing operations. Ms. Mills, and that's on page 42.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So I am back to give you an update on our quarterly report. This is for the period of July 1st of 2020 through March 31st, 2021. It's not working?
Through the phone.
Okay, so I'll try to speak up. Is that better? Yeah. Okay. So as usual, there's a lot of information in the quarterly report. I would like to highlight each of the departments and the progress and work that they accomplished during the quarter. And staff is on the phone in case there's any questions that any of you may have. Starting out with the Housing Choice Voucher, again, this is as of the end of March 2021. We had 3,870 participants in the program. 27 new landlords were added during the quarter, and we conducted 1,019 housing quality standard inspections. The Housing Programs Director, Ms. Thomas, she'll be coming up after me to talk about the annual plan for 2022 and the plan that's posted currently through today, has been posted since March 29th for public comment. Also, Economic Opportunities had a total of 14 job opportunities during the quarter and 4 training opportunities for contractors. The Facilities Management Department mainly worked over this quarter repairing water line breakages due to trench leaks. During this transition from winter to spring and summer, we do see an increase of that just because of the age of the piping, so they spent a lot of time during the quarter addressing those issues. In property management, we have a 91.3% occupancy rate. That includes Tidewater Gardens and Diggstown, so when we take those 2 communities out, we're actually around a 95% occupancy rate. Our age receivables as of the end of March was 3.34. It's been maintaining around that same number for a couple months. Looking at the current numbers, we're about the same as well, a little bit more than 3.3. We have 321,000 in delinquencies right now as of the end of April. Our eviction terminations continue to remain low. For this period, we are at 13 or 0.53%, and compared to last year's quarter, we were at 48, 1.56. Again, most of that is because of the eviction moratorium that's now been extended through the end of June, but we have had some criminal-related or lease violation termination. For client services, Mr. Jackson mentioned the big effort that department, along with Ms. Thomas, worked on the vaccination. So you have details about that. Also, they have partnered with Butterfly Village to enroll 9 of our young ladies in our community to the She Can STEM Academy. and they have distributed for the quarter ending March 50,000 pounds of food as part of our outreach efforts for COVID and getting food out to our families. Safety and Security Department continues to try to coordinate meetings with the residents to address safety concerns in the community. We have them continuing to review the trespass ban notice, and during this quarter, 26 individuals were removed from the ban listing. And then you also have included the capital fund report for the quarter, showing the work that's going on that affects property management in many of our communities. So again, that is just a highlight of the report. Does anyone have any questions on any of that information or anything else that you saw in the report itself?
Donna, do you have any projections for the evictions, if and when it ever ends?
So, as far as number of evictions, no. So what we have discussed in some of the committee meetings is that that is not going to be our course of action when the eviction moratorium expires. Now, we are going to push to establish repayment agreements for anyone that has a balance. Just to kind of give you some understanding of the current delinquency rate that I mentioned, the 321,000, that's 388 residents or households that are delinquent as of the end of April. 15 of those families owe more than $4,000. A lot of them are lower balances. So I really just wanted to kind of focus on the entire balances that we have. So 15 owe $4,000 or more, 3 owe $10,000 or more. One has been evicted already, and it was for program violations. It wasn't for rent. And 2 actually have a large balance because of a failure to report. And so they have a back balance that they owe us because they failed to report their income, and we're setting up repayment agreements with them already. So you have 12 left that owe less than 10, between 4,000 and 10,000. So we are starting to enter into those repayment agreements. We will still have some that will be non-compliant. We actually, out of the remaining residents, we had 3 additional residents that failed to report, and so they're already on a repayment agreement. We have 3 units that we feel have been abandoned, and we're going through our abandonment process, and they will eventually be vacated out of eviction. So hopefully, as these repayment agreements are getting started, I'll have a better idea for you at the next either committee meeting or board meeting on how many repayment agreements we have and where that leaves us with the rest of the family.
If they walk on you, pardon me, if they walk on you after signing the agreement, how's it set up? I mean, is it legally pretty strong?
Yes, sir. So the repayment agreement is signed by both the resident and the property manager. It's valid just as the lease is. If they fail to honor their repayment portion, as well as their normal rent portion, we can proceed with evictions. And there will be cases where that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking big dollars for people.
Yes. So the repayment agreement is pretty much their last chance to make themselves whole with the housing authority. And if they do not take advantage of that, then you will see some evictions based on that after the moratorium expires.
Don, if you get evicted from public housing, have you lost your opportunity to ever get a voucher or any types of subsidies for housing from the federal government?
Our policy is 5 years, and that's usually a HUD standard, that if you've been evicted from affordable housing, you're not eligible for 5 years from the eviction.
So it's a big penalty.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And we're trying to express that and explain that in the communication that we're providing the residents.
And it also eliminates the right to return.
Correct, for the Tidewater Gardens residents, and this is a part of the outreach that USI is conducting as well, that this does impact you being able to come back. They're working very closely with the residents in those communities trying to resolve some of these issues, and we've been successful with that. But if there is somebody that does end up, because of failure to pay their rent, it will pertinent when they want to come back to the community.
The city is, has opened this data portal. They've done a civic lab thing.
Yeah.
And Peter Burek is one of their foci. One of the things they focus on has been citywide evictions. Because they recognize that this is not just a house.
Excuse me.
Citywide eviction.
Suzanne, could you repeat what?
The city's data project, Civic Lab, is out of their, kind of strategic initiative office. They're doing some specific studies, data work on citywide evictions. So they recognize that it's not just a NRHA concern, it's a citywide concern, but it would be interesting, I think, to see what the whole data set looks like. So, just watching carefully.
Well,
it's interesting.
We have been given access to some of that
Right.
Data because that is one of the resources we have identifying landlords in the city of Norfolk, housing opportunities. I'm not sure if we have access to that, but I can inquire now, and I know that they're doing that.
Yes, Peter Burek.
Okay.
Other questions? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And now we'll move on to Ms. Thomas.
Good morning, Commissioners.
And I think we're on page 74 now.
So this morning I'm going to provide an overview of what we can expect at 11 as we begin the public hearing process for our fiscal year 2022 annual and 5-year plan process. In accordance with the Quality Housing, in accordance with the Quality Housing and Work Responsibility Act of 1998, housing authorities are required to issue to HUD a work plan or annual plan that details the work and the strategies and objectives that they plan to embark on over the 1-year period of the fiscal year that's being proposed. It also looks at a 5-year projection of activities and objectives as well. And again, it's important to note that this is a plan of aspiration of sorts. It does not mean that it's the commitment of the housing authority. It means that these are the activities that we choose to embark on. The importance of adding that bit of information is also that if we don't have it in the plan as an aspiration or a goal or an objective, then the housing authority, that's correct, cannot do it. Or if we want to try to do it, we have to go through what's called a significant amendment process to have the plan, the overall plan amended and included in the plan. So that's why it is a long process to ask staff and the community to provide feedback so that we make sure we include everything that we think we want to do, okay? Next slide. Just a quick overview of the schedule that's leading up to today. The Resident Advisory Board has been engaged since about mid-April up until today. What that means is I've been meeting with them. We have actually had our first in-person meeting, but I've mostly been meeting with them one-on-one, giving them a copy of the draft plan that's out for review right now, and allowing them to provide information and feedback as they see fit. Public comment is 45 days, a 45-day review process that began March 29th and will go through 5 o'clock today. We are hosting our public hearing as required by HUD today, and this is initially on a virtual platform, but we will identify other options that folks have to providing public comment as well. The RAB, or Resident Advisory Board, will offer their final recommendation and comment to me on or before May 27th. These comments are actually included in the final draft plan that is submitted to you for final review, as well as submitted to HUD for approval. The final draft document, this final annual and 5-year plan, will be submitted to you, Commissioners, on or before June 3rd for your review. I want to give it to you at least a week in advance of our June board meeting, since you will be voting on a resolution for that document. And again, we will have this plan submitted on or before June 15th. In full disclosure, we are about 60 days delayed. Last year, our calendar was shifted because of COVID. There were some waivers that were put into place, and also waiting for some information from HUD from the previous year's plan. We decided rather than to try to rush something through, we wanted to take our time, follow all the steps. And so we are still covered under the last approved plan until this new plan is actually enacted and approved through HUD. And again, once this plan is approved, the effective date for the annual plan will be July 1st of this year through June 30th, 2022. Next slide. Just a few things to call out. Again, the annual plan effective period. These are proposed updates, overall plan goals. This is not the end-all be-all, but these are the things that we say that we, as an agency, would like to be able to either address or embark on as our course of action for business. We anticipate it will cover any anticipated development activities through June 2025. If you look through the draft plan right now, there are some places where it says like begin date or end date for the activities to be determined. And again, that's kind of like that placeholder. We want to address that these are activities that we may want to embark on, but we do not have either funding or final details for us to carry through an actual plan. As the annual plan is drafted each year, details become more and more specific as we know our resources and availability. Both the administrative plan and the admission to continued occupancy will be is in a draft form right now, but it will include updates. A lot of these updates are influenced by our demolition and disposition activities, like establishing preferences in the case of Tidewater Gardens and Digstown. Folks coming out of demo dispo communities will be given preference when they are being placed into other NRHA properties. Also, any changes as reflective of the Virginia Residential Landlord Tenants Act, as that has been recently updated, we want to make sure that those updates are included in our action plans as well. Our right to return policy that Steve Morales spoke of earlier for the residents in Tidewater Gardens, we want to make sure that it's not only a plan or an idea, but we actually have it cemented in our policies and our guidebook as to how we move forward. And the project-based voucher wait list, which through many of our communities, including Tidewater, is an option of folks who are moving out of certain communities and want to go into other types of housing. So we want to make sure that we have a clear and concise process by which we evaluate and allow folks to use that option. We're also updating the language in the Section 3 and economic inclusion activities. Section 3 is the mandate through HUD that looks at minority participation through minority contractors as well as residents affected by demolition and disposition activities in their community. But also with economic inclusion, that takes a little bit further. It talks about how we will expand the opportunities for the economy, the way that we award contracts and service agreements with minority and women-owned businesses. So we are working on a full program for that as well. There is a capital fund update that's in the draft plan right now, and I will just put a star right here and say, we know that this will definitely be updated to reflect the funds that are needed for ongoing activities over the next few years. There have been quite a few updates in the capital fund area, so we do anticipate that that information will be updated because we want to show how that money is coming in and how it will be allocated throughout all programs and all communities accordingly to meet the operational and development needs across the board. And lastly, program updates as needed. And I will just add in a little area here to give it an example. I believe it was in September, HUD came out with a new mandate that talked about installing carbon monoxide detectors in all of our public housing communities that have gas lines in them or adjacent to them. That would be some of that policy update that we're going to have included in this final draft of this plan as well. So anything that we need to show as a mandate or continued work that we are bound by regulation to take on, those things will be included in the plan as well. Next slide. Our esteemed Board of Commissioners will run this show. So I'll say all these niceties again. give this overview one more time for the public during the public comment, but it will be the commissioners who will actually be the ones whom the audience is speaking to, because they are basically getting you prompted to understand any issues or any ideas that they have comments on based on the draft plan that's out right now. I do want to say that what was decided, I believe, a couple of years ago, and I think the next slide speaks to this in the order of events, that while this is a public comment activity, you all have expressed that if there is erroneously false, misleading, or otherwise harmful information that is vocalized during this process, you do, as a board, have the discretion to address it on the spot. Chairman Masaccio will lead the conversation, so maybe there's some winks or some ear tugs or something that happens to give him the idea that you may want to express a comment, but this is totally up to your discretion. For the most part, I will play the background. The staff will be listening in as well, but we will be recording. We have a court reporter who will record all of the comments, but ideally it will not be an open dialogue between staff and callers.
In the past, most of the time our response was somebody will get back to you
Right.
on it, as opposed to this dialogue. So again, 99% of my comments will be, thank you very much. Someone from the staff will be getting back to you. Just to give it, so we don't have, if you remember a couple of years ago, we spent quite a bit of time going back and forth, and it really didn't accomplish anything. So, again, predominantly it will be thank you, and someone from staff will be getting back to you.
And also I would add that the responses that are given as part of the final draft document are responses as they relate to the annual plan itself. So why that's important, as Chairman Masaccio pointed out, there are oftentimes we will receive calls or respondents who have specific issues related to a unit or an incident. While we do not and will not ignore those comments, if it is not directly related to the draft plan, the response in the official draft plan will be something to the effect of NRHA staff has communicated with this person, or NRHA staff will seek available resources in addressing these issues. But if it's not something that's actually in the plan, it may not be a long written out answer or response. We do want to keep things very specific to the plan. This may even be an issue as we talk about things in Tidewater Gardens. We are looking at the annual plan and what's written in this plan. If we're talking about the housing plan or the people plan, those are separate plans. While, again, we're not skirting it, we're not ignoring it. We just want to make sure that our context and the comment response that's included in the final draft is relational to the annual plan itself. Next slide. As I mentioned earlier, in addition to today's virtual session, that we will allow callers to either call in and participate, voicing their comments, or type them into a text box. There are also two other ways in which folks can provide comments. There is a dedicated public comment line that is listed at 757-314-1320, as well as an online survey tool, which can be found on the website surveymonkey.com. By clicking on this link or calling the dedicated hotline, folks can also leave their comments. I can tell you, I believe as of last Friday, we had no callers calling into the comment line so far, and 2 comments coming into the online application function. So we will continue to leave these mechanisms open until 5 p.m. today in accordance with our 45-day annual review period. Again, that review period, as stated on this document, ends at 5 p.m. of the close of business today. And very last slide, we will just ask that Chairman Masaccio encourages callers in on the virtual platform to speak their name, their full name, their address, because that both will be recorded for the public comment note. And just to remind folks that there is a preferred 3-minute limit on comments. We will have someone working in the background from Broadnet as a moderator who I'm told does a fantastic job in playing that outgoing award show music to let folks know it's time to wrap it up. So, with all that being said, are there any questions or comments, I guess, appropriately?
No, I think we're set for it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, are there any new business or things about reviewing the committee reports? Okay, I guess we can now think about the closed session. Let me find the correct thing. Ready? Be it resolved that the authority will convene in a closed meeting pursuant to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as amended, the Act, to discuss the following matters which are specifically exempted from public disclosure by the code section referred to below. Consultation with the authority's legal counsel regarding
the Access Live event is in music hold. Music hold ended.
All right, so now I can go back. Consultation with the authority's legal counsel regarding actual or probable litigation. Thank you. Whereas the authority has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3712D of the 1950 Code of Virginia as amended requires a certification by this authority that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore, upon a motion duly made and seconded, be it resolved that the authority hereby certifies that to the best of each commissioner's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the authority. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Ms. Carnes?
Mr. Albert?
Aye.
Ms. Harrington?
Aye.
Mr. Benassi?
Aye.
Ms. Puryear?
Aye.
Mr. Gresham?
Aye.
Mr. Musachio?
Aye. Okay. Guess we should wait just a couple minutes till it's actually 11.
Yes. It's 11. It's 11:01.
Oh. So it is 11, okay. So again, I'm going to now convene the public hearing. Again, a reminder for those tuning in today, please dial *3 to raise your hand to provide your comment, or simply type it into the white box below the screen on your web browser. The moderator will call on you by name to speak or read your question aloud if you submitted your question online. As a reminder, your comment is being transcribed and recorded for inclusion in the final draft of the FY 2022 annual plan. Since this is a public hearing, you'll have an opportunity to state your comment over the phone or to submit it online. The board will use their discretion to respond to questions, but reserve their right to correct any erroneous, false, or inaccurate information. Again, when called upon, please remember to clearly state your name and address before stating your comment. The moderator will allow approximately 3 minutes for your comment, and with that, I will ask Ms. Thomas to give us a presentation.
Thank you, Chairman Masaccio. Good morning. Just to provide a overview of today's public hearing process, I want to go over a few slides that demonstrate the purpose and the objective of this convening. In accordance with the Quality Housing and Work Responsibility Act of 1998, all public housing authorities are required to complete a 5-year and annual plan. The plan includes information on major goals, objectives, and strategies for public housing, Section 8, currently known as Housing Choice Voucher, which includes such items as demolition and disposition, site-based wait lists, requirements and mandates by HUD, and other objectives and strategies for achieving our mission. Next slide. A brief look at the schedule for this public hearing and process includes the advisement of the Resident Advisory Board conducting both in-person and conference call meetings from April 20th until today. Public comment period of 45 days that began March 29th and will carry us through the close of business today. The public hearing is being offered on a virtual platform as the primary platform. However, we will discuss 2 other options as well later on in this presentation. The Resident Advisory Board will offer its recommendations based on public comments and the draft annual plan on or before May 27th. Those comments will be included in the final draft plan that is submitted to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The final draft will be completed on or before June 3rd and distributed to the members of the NRHA Board of Commissioners for final review. The Board of Commissioners will be given a presentation for resolution and adoption at the June 10th Board of Commissioners meeting. If approved, the submission of the annual and 5-year plan will go to HUD on or before June 15th, 2021, and the effective date of this plan will be July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Next slide, please. Just a few details to call out that are currently included in the annual plan as it is written. Again, the plan effective period will be July 1st through June 30th. In the event that we are not issued a approval letter from HUD by July 1st, we will continue to act under the current plan until such is done. The proposed updates will include overall goals and plans for the authority. It is important to point out, while this plan does provide a context of how the agency intends to do work, this is an aspirational plan, meaning it is indicative of the policies, the objectives, and the missions that we want to carry out. However, it does not give a specific date-by-date or definitive timeline as to when and how processes will be carried out. It's important to point out the reason we do it in this manner is because HUD requires that if the agency moves forward on any activity, it has to be part of the annual plan in order to carry out those goals and objectives. If it's not included in the plan at the time of approval, then the agency must undergo a significant amendment process, which means we enter into a new 45-day review period with the public. We also provide draft context and information for review. And again, that significant amendment is submitted to HUD for an additional 75-day review before it is actually approved or acted upon. Some of the things that are included in the current draft plan include changes to the administrative plan and the emission and continued occupancy plans. These are the plans that oversee the operations and governance of our low-income public housing, as well as Housing Choice Voucher, previously known as Section 8 program. It includes information about anticipated demolition and disposition activities, preference policies related to those demolition and disposition activities as they are written, updates that are reflective of the Virginia Residential Landlord Tenants Act, the right to return policy in particular for residents in Tidewater Gardens, and the project-based voucher waitlist process. Again, I want to point out that these are anticipated updates and things that we will include in these policies as part of the work that we move forward with, but this is the opportunity to provide comments based on the context of the annual plan. These plans and other plans like the housing plan specific to the Choice Neighborhood Initiative are very detailed. You may not see that level of detail in this annual plan, but the comments and responses that are received or made based on the comments and responses received today will be answered in the context of the annual plan itself. Additionally, there is updated language on the Section 3 program and the economic inclusion activities. These are the programs that guarantee through HUD mandates under Section 3 that we are engaging minority and women-owned businesses as well as residents who are affected by certain demolition and disposition activities and economic opportunities made available through new projects, and also to make sure that we, as an agency, in our economic inclusion plans, are diversifying the way that we organize our offerings for contracted services so that we have a more diverse community participating in business with us. There is a capital fund update that is included in this plan. That update will be one of the few things, or one of the many things that are actually updated from the point that we are right now, as more information has been received on the capital fund side of operations. Capital fund is basically the money that is used to address the maintenance and operational costs in our low-income public housing communities. So it is important that that information is offered in real time. We also are offering program updates as needed. For example, there is a new HUD mandate that is out about having carbon monoxide detectors in any public housing units that are connected to gas line services or an approximation of gas being utilized in the community in that building. Next slide. Our NRHA Board of Commissioners, under the chairmanship of Don Masaccio, will lead today's public comment period. This Board of Commissioners is very well versed and understand how this process works, so we will make sure that we defer all of our comments to the Board of Commissioners, and Chairman Masaccio will expand on how that will be done. Next slide. The board is assembled to hear the public comment, but the board, if deemed necessary, has the option to address any erroneously false, misleading, or otherwise harmful information that is put out by any caller or submitter that is misleading to the mission of this agency. So again, under Chairman Masaccio, the board will use its discretion in addressing anything that they see fit that needs to be said in real time. Today's meeting is being transcribed, and the recorded notes will be included in the final draft plan of the FY 2022 annual plan. Before it's submitted to HUD, answers will be given to public comments that have been received, but again, the comments will be in the context of the annual plan submission. Next slide. While we are convening the virtual platform today for this meeting, there are also two other options for submitting comments. One is a dedicated public comment hotline, which is accessible at 757 area code 314-1320, and also online at SurveyMonkey. Both of these opportunities allow folks to participate who may not be able to either get through the line today on the virtual session or feel more appropriate or more at ease with using something that is not forward-facing to live streaming. Comments will be accepted until 5 p.m. today, Thursday, May 13th, as we close out the 45-day required review period and as advertised previously. Next page. And I will just reiterate that callers, please clearly speak your full first and last name, your address, and please be mindful and respectful of a 3-minute limit on all comments that are being submitted to the Board of Commissioners. Thank you.
Okay. With that, I'll open the floor for public comment. Moderator, do we have callers?
At the present time, Chairman, we do not have any callers, but I would like to repeat a phone number that would be necessary for someone to dial if they're just listening online. If they're listening online and wish to make a comment live during this forum, please dial 833-946-1557. Again, dial 833-946-1557. There you'll be able to press *3 to enter the comment queue. So again, to make a comment live during this open forum, please call 833-946-1557. Once you're prompted, dial *3. But at the present time, we do not have anyone in the Q&A queue for the calls. We do have an online comment that was provided by Ventoria Clay. And Ventoria Clay with Independence Center have comments concerning need for HCVs. That was the comment left online.
Okay. Would someone please check the area hallways?
There is no one in the hallway.
No one in the hallway.
Give it a few minutes. Perhaps, moderator, would you mind repeating the phone number and the prompt, please?
Yes, ma'am. I'm happy to go over that number again. So the number to dial to engage in a live comment during this public forum, please call 833-946-1557. Again, 833-946-1557. And then when prompted, press *3 to enter the comment queue. Again, if you are listening online and you have a comment you would like to make, you are welcome to submit the comment using the name and comment button below the streaming player. If you are listening on the phone to this teletown hall, you can just press *3 on your telephone to raise your hand and provide a comment during this event. Again, you're asked to keep your comments to 3-minute time limits. We're also asking that you clearly state your name and address before stating your comment. So it looks like we do have a caller that is arranging into queue right now. So people have heard that number to dial. I will repeat it again just in case you missed it. The number to dial, if you would like to make a live comment during this open forum, is 833-946-1557. Again, 833-946-1557. And when prompted, please press *3 on your telephone keypad.
Okay, let's go ahead and cue in the person who's called in, please.
Chairman, I will do that just as soon as they are through the input process. My system shows that they are right now. I have not seen them press the *3. So as soon as that happens, I will let you know that they are ready to be taken live for their comments, sir.
Thank you.
So just to repeat for everyone that's joined us, if you're listening online and you would like to make a live comment, we need you to dial 833-946-1557. And when prompted, you can press *3 to enter the comment queue. Now, you're more than welcome to send a comment online if you are listening in online, and you can do so by entering your name and comment beneath the streaming player. And Chairman, it looks like we are ready for this first caller with the last 4 digits of 8007. Caller, welcome to the call. Please state your name, your address, and your comment.
Yes, this is Vantoria Clay. I'm calling from the Independence Center, and our address is 6300 East Virginia Beach Boulevard, Norfolk 23502.
Thank you, ma'am, and your comment.
The comment I have is that we are a Center for Independent Living disability advocacy organization, and we are assisting Norfolk residents with an array of independent living services to increase their level of independence. And we advocate for increased accessibility and community services in housing for those who are in housing that's not affordable for them, inaccessible housing, those who are homeless, and those who want to move out of nursing homes. And I just wanted to say that as of April 2020, we have been assisting 63 homeless individuals, and we were able to assist 13 with motel assistance who were experiencing COVID-19 related needs. And we found that for those who have extremely low income, such as SSI, they had a very difficult time locating housing within the time frame that we could assist them with the motel. And so in many occasions, they had to be referred to shelters, and for those who weren't able to find housing. So we find there's a number of those who are in need of Housing Choice Vouchers to help them to obtain affordable housing, because without the vouchers, they wouldn't be able to locate or identify affordable housing. And so they, continue to be homeless or at risk. And so we would like to also say that we would like to work with and partner and collaborate with Norfolk Housing as we've done over the years. And we would like to be a part of their efforts with applying for new vouchers and with disseminating vouchers to those who are homeless with disabilities. And we'd like to be a part of that effort. And if you could, let us know how we can work together on that.
All right, well, thank you very much, and we will have some of the staff contact you directly to see what options are available. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Bye.
The moderator, anyone else?
At present time, sir, we do not, but I will take a moment and repeat the phone number just to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to dial in and speak their mind. 833-946-1557 is the number to dial. Again, 833-946-1557. Once you've dialed that number, and when prompted, press *3 on your telephone keypad to enter the comment queue. If you are listening to this dialogue through the internet, you're more than welcome to enter your name and comment below the streaming player. At the present time, Chairman, we do not have any callers in queue or any online comments to read.
Right, and I suggest, Ms. Thomas, if you'll make a check of the hallway again, please.
No one waiting in the hall.
All right. We have no one waiting in the hallway. Moderator, anyone on the line?
No, sir. I do not show anyone in the queue at this moment.
All righty. Then it appears that we have received the comments we're going to receive during this operation, reminding folks that there are other ways of doing it until 5 o'clock today. So on that note, I will go ahead and call the public hearing to closure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.